This video is sponsored by Crimson Manifesto. Alright people, I'm not going to take long on this. If you're familiar with my Jiraiya Adopted Naruto series, which statistically you likely are, you'll be familiar with what I'm doing right here. We're going to be splitting part 10 into 2 acts since it's a pretty beefy bit of content to go over. So be sure you are subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss when Act 2 comes out. About 90% of you guys are regular viewers and aren't yet, and you could be the subscriber that pushes the channel to a new milestone. Leave a like as well and comment your thoughts at the end, and please enjoy the show. Those Who Howl in Rage. What if Zabuza survived? Part 10, Act 1. It has been nearly 2 whole months since we last left off, and the events of Jiraiya's excursion into the Rain Village are about to take place. However, this time as Jiraiya and Tsunade reminisce about Naruto's parents and how strong he's become, Jiraiya admits he'd be willing to take him with him, due to both that great strength and the teamwork they built up over their training trip. However, as Tsunade has the boy on punishment, it doesn't exactly seem fair, but the Hokage can tell he is mostly saying this just to butter up about his student's stint in the village prison. Although, because Tsunade is already worried, she waves this off, stating this mission and more importantly, Jiraiya's safety should be prioritized, and thus, in this instance, punishment shouldn't matter, insisting that at the very least, if he isn't getting Naruto, she'd be ending Zabuza's punishment in order to send he and Kakashi along with the sage, seeing as the duo were both already trained in infiltration espionage as former Anbu, proverbially offering him a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer. Jiraiya rubs his chin, thinking on this generous offer, and by no small means feeling quite special and cherished that his teammate would even make it. But in the end, he must go with Minato's kid. Tsunade can understand this inclination, and so snaps to send one of her out-of-sight Anbu escorts to the jail with orders for the Jinchuriki's early release. As the Black Ops operative leaves, another figure retreats into the shadows at a far slower pace, smirking at having just gotten some info well worth his spying on the duo himself. Meanwhile, in the prison, Naruto has continued to try and pass the time however he can, his hyperactive nature only worsened by being cooped up in the same place for so long, as he goes from trying to do a bit of training to counting the number of bricks which made up his and Zabuza's cells, or even annoyingly asking the older shinobi if he could cut certain random objects. By this point, Zabuza's eyes are bloodshot, as in this short handful of months, he has gone from regretting that the two of them have had little time to spend together since the boy's return, to fully remembering why Kakashi gave him the epithet he did. The Sannin are his saviors, as they enter the prison. However, by the time they do, Naruto is already hanging off his bars and shaking them like a wild beast, as he begs to be set free. Jiraiya and Tsunade sweat drop, looking over to Zabuza curiously as the swordsman rolls his bloodshot eyes and waves them off by stating he's just confused as they are, as it hadn't even been that long, nor had Naruto been alone through any of it. Regardless, having already processed the necessary information, a Chunin guard is instructed to release Naruto, as he has a mission to go on. However, as the teenager begins thanking the Kage and his godfather profusely, he asks if Zabuza is being released as well. To this, Tsunade sadly apologizes that she still attempts to convince the council to reduce his sentence. Though after corresponding with the Mizukage, she has hopes and she's offered to make a trip to the Leaf personally to advocate on his behalf, as a gesture of goodwill for their new alliance. Zabuza's face however reddens at this, and he harumphs that he's sure that's all that maniac wants to do, causing both Jiraiya and Naruto to pounce on this moment of vulnerability, and that's what all that blushing is about, finally resulting in the swordsman barking at them to get the hell out of there so he can actually enjoy his downtime. Tsunade agrees with this, since the Toad, Sannin, and his student have a lot of prep work to do, and should start sooner rather than later, causing Naruto to confidently ask what the mission is, as his belongings are returned to him. Before they leave, however, Jiraiya pulls his friend to the side, and gives her the toad which holds the key to Naruto's seal, stating it as just a precaution, as it didn't make sense to go into enemy territory with both the treasure chest and the method to open it. Meanwhile, not exceedingly far away, Sasuke Uchiha is finishing up some light experimentation with the Kiba swords, whilst his heavy watch him curiously in the case of Jugo, lustfully in the case of Karin, and angrily in the case of Suigetsu, whom opens his fang-filled mouth for the billionth time to challenge Sasuke to a duel in order to get them back. Sasuke nonchalantly agrees, while Karin sighs not again. Jugo hesitantly waits for the two combatants to ready themselves, as Sasuke sheathes one of the Kiba swords, and Suigetsu wields Chojiro's stolen Hidan Mikade. However, as soon as Jugo calls for the duel to begin, Sasuke raises his sword, summoning a thundercloud above head that rumbles and flashes just before Suigetsu fully closes the distance between them. A dragon made of lightning the size of say a well-made water dragon jutsu suddenly appearing and slamming down the white-haired swordsman with enough force to blow Suigetsu apart and leave his liquefied body to reconstitute itself. With another successful test, Sasuke can't help but smirk, an immense amount of pride in being able to further develop his Kirin Jutsu to a state where he can now do it quickly and effortlessly through the use of a single Kiba sword, at the cost of some of his lethal power. This being only one of the applications he discovered since their excursion to the Hidden Mist, and not even mentioning that the extra bit of training has allowed him to better sync up with Orochimaru's sword power. Jugo then asks Karin if Suigetsu is really going to be okay, citing this is not the first time this has happened, but the redhead blows the concern off, claiming that it isn't Lord Sasuke's fault the fool's brains are being scrambled badly enough to forget the last few hours every time he challenges him like this. At the moment, even though we may be off by a month or two, I'll say the timeline matches up fairly well with canon, with a group of leaf tuning led by Kakashi and Yamato just with the absence of Naruto being dispatched to go and look for Sasuke. Naruto, of course, not even being informed of this mission in order to avoid his trying to bust out of prison early. This means everything that leads up to Sasuke's encounter with Deidara and Tobi still lines up fairly well. However, the major divergence here is that Deidara cannot hope to match Sasuke as he is. Since with the extra strength he's gotten from the changes so far, and the fact that Sasuke's specific counters to Deidara's entire arsenal are in this timeline literally supercharged, there just isn't anything he can really do. To the point that I do not think Sasuke would even activate his curse mark in this timeline, since that isn't the only way to fight an enemy from a distance anymore. Instead, unsheathing his Kiba swords and holding them in a peculiar way in one hand while his free hand draws his Kusanagi out and lays the blade across the other two, as if he were drawing a bow, for a technique the Avenger has decided to dub his Thunder Fang Archery. There is a flash of light, and then the next thing Deidara knows, he is slumped up against a tree in excruciating pain, looking down to find that not only has he lost his arm again, but all his limbs have parted with him, and been perfectly cauterized to keep him alive for interrogation, in turn leaving him unable to become his own art. And as a lesser note, this also means that Manda gets to survive in this timeline, at least for now. However, before Deidara can spit anything out, Tobi suddenly phases his hands through the now useless shinobi's head, making it tangible long enough to make a mess of what remains of him as he steps out from the tree and speaks in his real voice, admitting he might have underestimated the little Chiha too much and introducing himself as Madara, elaborating that he'd be happy to facilitate a little family reunion as the Hebi converge on their leader. Jugo and Suigetsu move to neutralize the foe until Sasuke orders they stop, asking Madara to go on, and so Sakura and the Leaf Ninja pursuing them are never tipped off to their location, instead being preoccupied by the return of Kabuto with a few modifications. As this is happening, Naruto and Jiraiya start their hunt, with the master telling his student to let him take the lead on this part. Much of the actual intelligence gathering goes the same, and we don't start to see more divergences until the captured shinobi begin to resist questioning, with the sword-bearing Jinchuriki's first instinct being to see how talkative they become after he fillets some skin off their backs. Jiraiya in turn now has to pull Naruto aside and reprimand him for jumping so quickly to lethal force, citing that none of his teachers do so as much as he's beginning to, and that's saying something considering all of them have been to war and have assassination training, kicking himself now for not taking the time to check in with his student before this. He hears the blonde grumble no one says that to Zabuza. Jiraiya shooting back that last he checked, Zabuza's first solution to every issue wasn't cutting it in half, at least not anymore. And beyond that, he didn't swing his sword more than once. It's an issue of discretion and effectiveness. Hearing this salient criticism, Naruto sighs and admits to not only being anxious to take on the Akatsuki leader, but also to get back to his search for Sasuke, now boasting extreme confidence that he is finally powerful enough to drag him back. In response to this, Jiraiya reasserts that he and everyone else can see just how strong Naruto has gotten through a lot of hard work, but he cautions him not to rush ahead so hard that he misses out on a lot of vital lessons and experiences for better or worse doing that. Jiraiya then returns to his interrogation and leaves Naruto to reflect on this while he gets the information his way. As in canon, Pain and Konan begin looking for their intruders, while Jiraiya goes to get more info and has Naruto stay in the tow with their captives with orders not to harm them. However, Konan quickly appears and the two begin their battle. Things continue as in canon, including the arrival of the Animal Path. However, in this timeline, when Jiraiya summons Gamaken, he also weaves through hand seals for a technique he developed over their training trip, Toad Stomach Hurling, which sees Naruto spat from the Infiltration Toad towards their opponent like a bullet, as the Toad Sage orders his allies to buy him some time so he can summon two great sages. Pain, with the haughtiness of a deity, expresses gratitude in his old master for making the Jinchuriki hunt easy on him for once, and in turn promises to make their death merciful, ticking Naruto off of his first charge as dodged, and he processes Jiraiya's order. Luckily, Naruto has worked with this Toad before, and so confidently tells Jiraiya he'll have this all cleaned up before he can do whatever he's attempting, and so as a duo take on Pain into summons while Jiraiya takes a step back. The duo of Naruto and Gamaken doing about as well as Jiraiya and Gamaken did in canon, due to this all being new territory for them. However, there is an added benefit of Jiraiya getting greater perspective over the battle by viewing it as a third party. By the time the bull summon offsets the scales, however, the signing is prepared, appearing in front of Naruto and blowing the massive creature away with raw physical strength, as two Toads the boy is unfamiliar with now ride his shoulders. Taking control of the battle back, he sends Gamaken home to Mount Miyoboku, as to not endanger him unnecessarily with such tricky opponents, ordering Naruto firmly to form up on him and do exactly as he says from here on out, the Jinchuriki getting a bad feeling he hadn't felt since his running with Orochimaru. With Naruto there for support, the Animal Path would either have to be taken down quickly, or would have to resort to summoning far quicker than it did in canon. As it's the more forward and active option, the latter is the choice of the opponent. this bringing an earlier arrival of the Predator and human paths. Now outnumbered, Jiraiya obviously begins to take things even more seriously. Naruto easily able to sense the power and tension his perfect master is radiating, and subconsciously begins pulling on Nine-Tails' chakra for the first time since Tenchi Bridge, obviously blind to how much better his control has gotten since his ultimate technique train. As a result, when the human path attempts to make a frontal assault for a lethal opening, and Jiraiya intercepts it, Naruto is only a step behind, moving to slice through the opponents and flying towards him and those behind it, as he weighs his snow demon down with chakra before swinging the massive sword and cleaving through the human path and hopefully all its allies using the helmet splitter. However, the Predator path obviously has objections, moving in front of his remaining ally to absorb the rampant chakra as it catches the snow demon. However, Jiraiya is the one who is ready this time, as he tries to blitz behind the chakra absorbing Rinnegan Mooter and flatten it with another massively powerful blow, only for the man to be summoned out of the way and next to its ally. This causes a stalemate rather than forcing Jiraiya on the back foot as in canon, and in turn causes Pain to resolve to show them the difference between humanity and a god, as the remaining three paths are suddenly summoned, and Jiraiya is made even more confused. With the odds now heavily out of their favor, Jiraiya, Fukasaku, and Shima all reason to be best to retreat and assess the situation with distance. But Naruto is confident they can do this if they just split them up, citing individually they aren't much to deal with, as he leaps back into the fray, taking another massive swing with the helmet splitter, forcing the Predator path to protect his allies again. However, this is merely a diversion, as two clones have been formed to help Naruto create a Rasen Shuriken, allowing him to get the drop on the unprepared animal path, taking it out of commission and evening the odds a tiny bit. However, this comes at the cost of a great deal of damage to Naruto's arm. Even so, he still stands defiantly as he is blown back by Jiraiya's side, now wielding his sword one-handed. Seeing retreat won't be an option unless Naruto agrees to it, Jiraiya has no choice but to join him, even though the final third of his attention is currently devoted to the realization that he recognizes some of the faces of Pain. His and Naruto's charge is repelled by a mysterious force from the Deva path, and as a result, they're left vulnerable to a pincer attack from the Ashura path, as a salvo of missiles is fired at them from the sides, while a bladed tail reminiscent of Sasuke's Hiriko tries to skewer them down the middle. But thankfully, both master and student are prepared to avoid these attacks by pressing their feet together in midair and kicking the other out of the path of the attack. This, however, leaves them vulnerable as the Predator path grabs Jiraiya by the throat, while the Naraka path takes hold of Naruto, squeezing his throat hard while his free hand touches the top of the boy's head and draws away, a strange eerie glow following it as Naruto quickly finds his mind going blank. This would have been it for them if not for the nature chakra flooding into the Predator path, causing it to suddenly become frog-like, giving Jiraiya an opening to bury his knee in its chest, caving it in and sending it flying. While the Toad Sages save Naruto. In the opening, he quickly grabs the Jinchuriki and reverse summons the two of them away and inside the stomach of his safe house Toad. Here, Naruto begins to argue, however the words catch in his throat, as a startling realization racks him, his good hand shakily reaching out to Jiraiya's arm, which is no longer present. In his adrenaline, the Sannin takes no notice, barely even wincing as Shima hurriedly does the best she can to treat the wound. At this time, Jiraiya focuses Naruto's mind by debriefing him on the parameters of the fight so far, what their advantages and disadvantages are, and what exactly the opponent must be doing to capitalize on each. This is hard, as it forces the Kake swordsman to be objective and recognize his failings for really the first time since the mission to Tenchi Bridge. Seeing his student as being objective, Jiraiya poses a theory, but to explain it, begins to tell Naruto a story that started back at the end of the Second Shinobi World War. However, by the time he reaches the point of discovering Nagato's Rinnegan, he stands, declaring their time is up and telling Naruto this is where they'll be parting ways for a bit. Confused, the Jinchuriki asks why, Jiraiya responding the Toad has been located and their opponents will be on top of them any moment now. Before that happens, he plans to emerge from the Toad and create a distraction long enough for the Toad with Naruto inside to escape the rain with important knowledge that the 6 Pains were merely puppets being controlled by his former student, Nagato Uzumaki, finishing by stating the Toad Sages will finish the story for him later, as he decides to unsummon both of them for their safety and to save chakra. This is all too much for Naruto to take in at the moment. However, he can focus on one thing, refusing to allow Jiraiya to lay his life down for him, and thus causing him to verbalize this argument. But in a fatherly tone, Jiraiya rubs his head, telling him they just can't win this one head on. But thanks to him, they now have the knowledge to come back stronger for round 2, stressing that Naruto not only did his task, but did a good job. But the Jinchuriki can tell the truth. He actively made this mission harder on his master, due to his overconfidence. Jiraiya hugs him close with his remaining arm, and tells him he's proud, but then turns his back in order to exit the Toad, only for a sharp pain in the back of his head to see him lose the power in his limbs as he crumbles to the ground. His last sight before going unconscious being Naruto stepping in front of him and declaring he refused to lose his master, sheathing the snow demon with a bit of trouble one-handed, as red chakra begins to bubble off the boy along with his skin beginning to tear away. The remaining 5 paths of pain suddenly sense malevolent chakra that can only be that of a Jinchuriki, and so redouble their travel speed, coming to a small cove on the shore of the village where Naruto Uzumaki stands, wreathed in a 5-tailed cloak. Not once to waste the opportunity, the Pains launch a perfectly coordinated assault to capture their final target. However, the Jinchuriki's anger adds to his power, and expecting that the Predator path can absorb the chakra of any attacks Naruto throws their way, the zombies nearly make a mistake, as the beast's tail suddenly peels back to reveal Naruto's sword clasped inside, making the chakra-absorbing cord vulnerable to be split at the waist and to fall uselessly, thus leaving only 4 more paths. Unfortunately, this trick does not work multiple times, and soon it is clear that even drawing on the Nine Tails, Naruto is still not enough for this so-called original child of prophecy, being forced to contend his strength against the Asura path as it unleashes the full brunt of its armory on him, resulting in such gruesome and barbaric amounts of damage stacking on the Jinchuriki, he'd be dead many times over if not for regenerating. To make matters worse, the human path and the rocket path are able to lend excellent support via their abilities, and thus the 4 pains regroup after Naruto is skewered and wrapped up by a bladed tail, the demon holder's head slumping forward in a sign of submission, until it raises to reveal a large ball of pure dense chakra, charging before his mouth. Swallowing it, a chakra gun is released, and nearly consumes the 4 pains if not for the Deva path contending against the beam with an almighty push. The 2 powers contend for only a moment before Naruto's beam begins to peter out, this moment of doubt being all the 9 tails needed to begin growing a 6th and 7th tail and taking more influence. A few minutes earlier, just a bit off the coast of the Rain Village, Jiraiya awakens with a gasp, the feeling that powers beyond his control were spurring him awake being unshakable, yet not something he can dwell on, as every part of his being told him that Naruto needs him, as he leaps from the frog's mouth and begins jumping over the water. As the Nine Tails makes his play for control over Naruto's faltering heart, and the Akatsuki their claim over it, both Demon and Hunter are thwarted by a returning gallant shinobi, as Jiraiya's body peels up from beneath Naruto's shadow, allowing him to break the blade holding him still before with every last ounce of chakra in his body, he spins and slams a massive Rasengan into the cloaked Jinchuriki's chest. Not to harm his godson, but merely to send him flying out of Pain's reach, and hopefully give a hard enough hit that the Nine Tails couldn't prioritize taking over versus survival. As Naruto becomes a speck in the distance, Jiraiya's chakraless body collapses, while he grows cold and numb, choking out that stupid brat had some nerve trying to steal his thunder. The 4 pains surround him, and then Jiraiya the gallant Sannin is no more. Later, the sting of salty ocean water washing over his missing skin forces Naruto to open his eyes. Despite his regenerative abilities, he is in agony, not of the physical sort, but from a sucking gut wound that feels as though his very core has been hollowed out. Pervy Sage is gone. Naruto knows it, and worse, he knows that it is his fault. If he just listened and retreated when Jiraiya said they both could have gotten away, but he had to play the big damn hero. What a joke. As if a demon like him could be anything of the sort. Sitting up, he sees the geezer Sage Toad tending to him, and when asked what happened, Fukasaku solemnly tells Naruto that Jiraiya boy was indeed lost in battle. Though thankfully, with the information they gathered, Lady Shima is on her way to the Leaf now to warn everyone and ensure Jiraiya did not die in vain. Numbly, Naruto asks what about the 2 of them. Are they going home too? But with a shake of his head, Fukasaku says they are headed for Mount Miyoboku, since it will take the power of a sage to beat that scoundrel Pain. And with Jiraiya boy gone, it falls to his last student to take up the mantle. At these words, a grim determination sets Naruto's jaw, and even with his injuries, he rises to his feet on the water. Worriedly, Fukasaku asks the brat thinks he's doing, but with fire in his eyes, Naruto snarls that he's going to learn Sage Mode the Toad said, to inherit his master's will. Then, he's gonna kill Pain and set things right. Believe it. Over with Sasuke, Tobi, and the Hebi, they are on their way to Itachi's current location, having stopped briefly at a small town to resupply and recuperate before the fated confrontation. However, not everything is sailing for the band of rogues, as before they even get within sight of the Uchiha hideout, they are stopped by Kisame, a shark-toothed grin on his lips as he tells Sasuke that he's afraid his little hangers-on won't be seeing Itachi with him. He also spares a strange look for Tobi, but says nothing, though this void of silence is not held for long, as from the back of the group, Suigetsu pushes himself forward, leering that this is better than he could have hoped, and that the rest of the Heavy can just sit on their hands, since Fish faces his. Cracking his knuckles, Kisame sneers that he doubts this little wet patch will come close to Mangetsu, but he's already been tasked with playing babysitter, so he'll go around with the kid if he wants. Who knows, it might even be fun, since rumor has it he's becoming something of a sword hunter, flashing shark teeth of his own. Suigetsu replies that he sure has, and today he's going to add Samahata to his collection. He then draws the Hiramakare and lunges at the shark man, but being the more experienced swordsman, Kisame easily parries. Even when Suigetsu splits the blade and attempts an overhead chop with one, while the other attempts to keep Samahata locked in a parry. Briefly, Sasuke considers using his Kiba blades to strike down Kisame, since as Itachi's partner in the Akatsuki, he does not have the veil of innocence that protects the Mizukage. However, before he can make a move, Tobi lays a hand on his wrist and urges him to go deal with Itachi, since that is the more pressing matter, and any strength wasted here might be the difference between getting his vengeance and his target escaping. Nodding, Sasuke entrusts Tobi and the Hebi to deal with Kisame, and proceeds to the hideout alone. From here, the fight with Itachi goes very similar to as in canon, the largest deviation being that Sasuke's increased strength and swordsmanship results in a tougher fight for Itachi. Nonetheless, the older brother does manage to extract Orochimaru from Sasuke's curse mark, as is his true objective. Then with that done, as Sasuke's security and legacy as a hero are seemingly secured, he dies with a smile on his face, leaving the younger brother more confused than ever and steeped in more darkness. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Suigetsu, whose hydrification is the only thing that has kept him from dying to Kisame dozens of times over. Unfortunately, even with his watery wiles to help him, his stamina is not infinite, and so he is promptly defeated with Kisame claiming Suigetsu's stolen sword scroll as the spoils of victory, much to the white-haired youth's consternation. During this fight, Toby and the rest of the heavy just watch, with Jugo refraining from helping to avoid going berserk, and Carding choosing not to act because she does not like Suigetsu, and it's cathartic to watch him get his butt kicked. As for Toby, somewhere along the way, he vanished, and it's only when Carding and Jugo are recovering Suigetsu's beaten form that they realize this. That is because he is in fact going on a mission of his own, reuniting with the battered but still conscious Sasuke, and sharing with him the truth Itachi died to hide from him, the truth of his brother's true history and allegiance, thus spurring on the creation of the Taka, whose goal is simple, the complete annihilation of the Hidden Leaf Village. Meanwhile, the residents of Konoha are hard at work gearing up for the arrival of a very different threat, that being pain. Having received Lady Shima's message, Tsunade has the entire village on high alert, figuring that if this self-proclaimed god truly is the head of the Akatsuki and is hunting Naruto, his home will surely be his next target. To this end, everyone has been assigned jobs to help fortify the village, with even low-level offenders being granted pardons on the grounds that they assist in the preparations and fight if necessary. One such offender is Zabuza, whom is met with delight by Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon when he is released from the Leaf prison and put onto a work detail. Though he hides it behind his gruff exterior, the former Seven Swordsman is pleased to see his kids too, asking if they kept up their training while also barking them to help him carry stuff, since there's no time to stand around flapping their gums. Being used to this brusque treatment, the trio of two getting in one tuning assist their sensei, with even Kakashi joining in, having heard that Zabuza was getting out. Although as is his way, the white-haired Jonin does turn up late when most of the work has already been done. However, even if he is late to assist with fortification, he is just in time to witness the arrival of two figures at the village gate, a girl with orange hair and several facial piercings, and more surprisingly, Jiraiya. At once, the Toad Sage begins to speak, and as he looks up to address those on the gate, they see that he now too sports those same facial piercings as well as a pair of Rinnegan. Calmly, Jiraiya asks to see Naruto, claiming they were simply separated on their mission, but the whole village has been informed of Jiraiya's death by Tsunade and the nature of the paths of pain, so no one is fooled. Angrily, as this great man being disrespected was both one of the first Leaf Shinobi to accept him and a mentor, Zabuza makes his way up the rampart, and yells back down that Pain can take his creepy-ass puppet show elsewhere, since they're not buying it. Seeing that this attempt at subterfuge has failed, Jiraiya states very well they will have to do things the hard way. And at once, the nameless redhead at his side springs to action, using the Sanin's back to jump up into the air, and employing the same Rasengan springboard he used in life to save Naruto, Jiraiya launches her even higher. A few moments later, she lands in the center of the village, and revealing herself to be the new animal path, she summons the remaining paths including Jiraiya and Konan to her side. Pain's assault has begun. Well, I certainly hope you all enjoyed this wildly different take on the beginning of one of Naruto's most iconic arcs, at least on the Naruto side. I know Sasuke hasn't seen many changes other than his just being generally stronger and having some cooler attacks, but sadly, I just think that's how this would end up going, since in my eyes, Zabuza surviving just keeps the series and its characters more faithful to their core beliefs and ambitions. Not to say he doesn't have some fairly big changes coming up though. I certainly look forward to showing you the rest of Pain's assault in this universe and the story beyond that. But for now, it's time to sign out by thanking our channel's main supporters, which you can join the ranks of by becoming a channel member or preferably a patron. B, Adrian Carr, Daniel Smith, Inebriated, Coder SV3, John Sullivan, Trent Rouse, Dark Shadows, Pokemon Trainer Cam, River Joy, Arcana of the Heart, Jay Ray, Infernate Beast 326, Omar Cousin, Stephen Norton, Vegeta What Ifs, Justin Covington, Shao P, Daniel Wolfdog 31, Cordell Sanders, and Crimson Manifesto. As always, your aid helps me make my videos above and beyond with stuff like new custom art for thumbnails and visuals, and means the world to me. But with that said, be sure to take care of yourselves and the world around you. And as always, go beyond plus ultra. And I'll see you guys next time.